Hey guys, it's Tony from A&E Construction. You're watching Build with A&E. Have you ever wondered how to produce curved handrail? Well, this is how we do it, guys. We do it with very thin laminates of oak. We then stick it all together with cascamite powder resin glue, and then that allows us then to create a lovely curved handrail all the way around from top to bottom. So follow us on this process and watch how it's done. So guys, what we've got here is 27 pieces of 3mm oak laminate. And what happens, we glue all these together with the cascamite glue that we got there. And what we then do is clamp it then round the jig. And once it's all clamped and pulled together and curving round the jig, it really then becomes really strong, and then all the grain then is running in the same direction. It looks really, really nice. The glue that we use that I just spoke of earlier is called cascamite structural powder resin glue. And you mix this with water. Definitely recommend that you wear a mask because it does powder up when you're using it. You just use water, that's all you need. You mix it to a single cream consistency. I use the paddle mixer when I'm actually mixing this. I use that paddle mixer like that, and it gets all the little lumps out. Now, as you can see here, nice creamy consistency. What I would always suggest that you do when you think that you've got enough glue, always make sure you get a load more water just in case you've got to mix them up quickly in case you run out of glue. It's really, really important that once you start gluing up, you can't stop. So I'm going to go and get some more water just in case I run out of glue, because I think hopefully that will just be enough glue. But if I do run out, at least I'll have water and powder to hand straight away to mix, so I can then crack on with the handrail, okay? Basically what we're going to do now is you'll see us put the cascamite on with these nice furry rollers. These are great. Don't use the foam roller, make sure you use a nice fluffy roller, because it's really important that when you get the cascamite on, and don't worry about getting the cascamite everywhere, it's really important that we get loads of glue on. Look, you see how much I'm getting on there? It's really important. Don't worry about it slopping it everywhere, it's just really important that you get loads on. So, get loads on like that. See how quite liberal I'm being, because I want to make sure I get loads on there. And the other thing is make sure you've got no dry spots on there either. And what you do is then jump onto the next one. Loads of glue onto this. So you can see I'm leaving slurries like this on because I want to make sure whatever, there's just loads and loads of lovely glue on there. Literally as soon as you glued that, we flip it straight over, put that one straight onto there, and then same process again. And we keep just doing this process for the 27 pieces that we've got to do. Now these rollers are great for this. You can get it done really quickly because that's what you want. You do get a lot of curing time with the cascamite. As you can see now, we're probably just under halfway, and we've used just under half of the glue. So hopefully we'll just have enough glue to get this on. I'm getting there, look, and look at that. You can see that the glue, I think we're just gonna have enough glue here, guys. Right, we've got literally this side and this last layer to do here. So we'll just get this last bits in now. Look at that. Hardly any cascamite glue left. Lovely. So the next thing we do, once we've got all glued together like that, you push everything together you can. Like this, best you can, like that. And then what you do, you get a bit of duct tape. This just helps keep everything together. There you go. Now it's always a good sign, see all the glue coming out, that's what you need, that's what you want. That's it, lovely. You good, mate? If you put it in the middle of the handrail, mate, okay?
Yeah.
All I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pinch it, mate, yeah? Just tighten it now, Mark, can you? Well, mate, beautiful. So if you now clamp that up nice and tight, mate. Hopefully that'll be enough.
You in?
Yep, you in?
What's the setting time on the glue then?
Good hour, so easily, good hour. That's why it's so good to use cascamite, mate. You've got so much messing around time with it, which is really cool. Look, you see like there's a gap there now, look, see it? That's why you need the other clamps, you see, because we'll put them like that. That's why you need all the little clamps in here. See all the glue come out of the bottom? So guys, as you can see, we've clamped it all up. Now what we've done, we've clamped on every riser point and clamped in the middle. We used some lovely good sized blocks, and you can see in between here, we've got no gaps at all, and it's lovely and flat, isn't it? And we know it's nice and square to the string line, so it'll run up all the way around, nice and parallel all the way around. You can see underneath, it's lovely and tight and clamped underneath here, no gaps. We've wiped all the excess glue off because it makes it easier in the process of sanding and moulding it, because obviously even though it's on a curve, we want to keep it nice and square, so when we're running the router, we're making sure we're getting a lovely square mould off this point on both sides of the handrail. Also, we'll put a lovely groove on the underneath to take all the 31mm oak spindles that we're going to put in, and you'll see all of this process that we break down in sections. So as you can see here now, guys, we've started to clean the handrail up. We've been very lucky to be able to get this actually through the surface planer. What you have to do is sort of twist it round as we get it through the surface planer, so you can see all the pitch marks on there, but it's getting it nice and flat. Just got it to the right thickness of the handrail, which is really, really cool. And you can see the other side, it's really nice and flat as well. You can just see a little bit of the glue line there, but that'll all be taken out with the groove and the mould. And then what we've done is we've got the belt sander in here, clean that up so we've got a nice running surface, because we're going to put a couple of cutters on this now with the router, which you'll see, which will produce the mould for the handrail, because even that's the start of it, obviously then we run further moulds to get it exactly where we want it to be, so we can start running the router. You'll see that process now. So the tools that we need to produce this handrail. So we've got a lovely square section here now, 70 by 85mm. And what we've got here, the cutters, we've got a lovely big round cutter here, 1/2 inch collet. We then got the bottom half of the handrail. You can see this is going to have like a B detail on the bottom here, sloping in. So the top half is going to have this lovely massive round on it here, you can see on both sides. I like to use bearing cutters because it makes life a lot easier when you're running moulds. And then this cutter will flip the handrail upside down. The bead will be on the bottom part of this section here. It's really quite important to mention, make sure you mark your top and your bottom of your handrail, because Obviously you don't want to machine it upside down because then you'll have a left-handed handrail. The handrail runs all the way along this way and then curves then into the null post here. So this is going to be the top. So I'm just going to mark on their top so I don't get confused when I'm machining it. And then you'll see the whole process as I'm running the router here. I've got to think to myself, right, if I run that curve, how's that going to then affect then this router here? The cutter is going to come in about that line. So I've got to make sure this bearing then when it goes on, yeah, that's going to be fine. So it doesn't matter which one I run, we're still going to have a bearing line there because you can see the top of that cutter and where that cutter is actually going to finish. If I actually mark it on here like this, that represents the bottom of this cutter coming all the way through to that point. So in other words, the bottom of this cutter is going to come to this point. So then when I run this other mold like this, I know primarily that it's then going to run on a true point. It's not going to dive in on me, so it'll give me the true distance that I'm after. Sometimes you've got to be careful that if you run a certain cutter first and it takes a chunk of material away, what would happen? And when the bearing runs and the material, it just gives you a different shape. So it's really important, check where your bearings are going to go with when the handrail, how it's going to form. Okay guys. Now this process is exactly the same as I've done with the twisted handrail, which runs up the rake of the actual staircase. So unfortunately I wasn't able to show any of the machining of that. That's why I wanted to show the machining on this curved landing handrail. But it's exactly the same process. The only thing is I couldn't actually put the rake handrail on the planer, so I had to hand plane it square. You can see this is pretty much nice and square. So it gives me a decent block surface, decent bit of timber to work with. So you can see the way the panels, the grain's running on this as well. So I'll literally bite away at this, taking small chunks out at a time. I won't go for the full blow straight away because I don't want it spelching out of me and splitting any. I'll just take my time and you'll see that whole process now. Now as you can see guys, what we've done now, we've actually machined the top round of the handrail on the left hand and the right hand side. So we're machining this looks really, really nice, I'm really happy. You seen earlier we had a bit of a spouch, that's why I sometimes back cut on the blade just to stop that because it really does help. And that's why I take off small amounts as well as I'm routering. It's really, really key that you take off small amounts at a time instead of going for the big full blow. So, but it turned out really, really nice. I've had no major disasters with it. I'm just going to machine this last bit up here as well, just to finish that off. So the next part of the process of doing the handrail is actually the bottom part of the handrail. So we're going to use this cutter that's going to produce then where your fingers tuck underneath here. So you can imagine at this point here, this cutter will take a load of this material out and then give us a lovely bead detail so your fingers will actually sit on it, and it just really makes the handrail feel beautiful. You can get these cutters, actually, I've got a catalogue here, and what you do, you can go into this catalogue here and you can choose the relevant bits that you want, and they've got loads of different cutters to do different jobs. Here, look, you can see a resin fielded panel cutter that you can use to then make a nice detailed panel for a door that you're going to make. I went to their handrail section and they do about 5 or 6. I wish they actually did more cutters for handrails because there are quite a few different shapes of handrails, and I wish they did a couple more, which would be more beneficial to producing different molds, especially for getting your fingers into the actual mould. So, but generally, look, here you go, look, that's the cutter there for producing handrails. This one, you can specifically see, I wish they did this cutter in a deeper throw here to give you more of a curve inside here. I also wish they did it in different lengths. You can order, I think with this catalogue, you can specialise a cutter, but there's a massive lead time and obviously the cost is a huge issue. They do quite a few, look, they do different ones here where you can produce different moulds, but I do feel as if they produce a couple more, it would just be a bit more flexible on the handrail side. So, but pretty cool, pretty good. So, next thing, next cutter, literally, cutter. Now with the router, as you all know, a router's got two locking points on it. So you've got the first initial lock and then the second initial lock, which is a safety feature on most routers. I don't know a router that hasn't got a double locking system on it. So the other thing you'll notice, routers have these points on here. Now this guide here, just on that point, shows you where the collar has to come up to. It's really important that you stick to those guides. Don't put the collar down here somewhere, always go to where the manufacturer's collar guide point is. So look, I'll put that cutter in there, you can just see now, I wouldn't leave it like that. I can push it all the way down to the collar point, now you can see. And then I'll start to finger tighten it first. And then nicely tighten up the span like that. So now we've got that cutter in. The other thing is really key and it's important, I always use my depth stop in everything I do. Always use this because if ever the router moves or slips, I can know exactly where I've got to trench to, and this depth stop is really handy. So whenever I'm plunging, I'll then set it like that, and every time I go back, it's always going to go to the same place. So it's really important, I always use this depth stop. Okay guys, so next process on this handrail is turning it the other way around and doing the bolt. Of blows. It's really important I don't take it out all in one hit, because then it's not going to spelch the oak, and then plus it just gives me a nicer finish. So it's really important you just take your time. Once I've passed it once or twice, I'll then go in and do the whole pass, which will be the final cut. So you just see me go past once. Yeah. Absolutely lovely that is. So there we have it. Now we machine the handrail. You see sometimes I was back cutting there. It's really important that you're back cutting when you start to have a spelch. You just got to really hold the router really firm, because back cutting, the router, as you can see, does slightly snatch away from you. But what it does, it helps stop any spelching and further breakout, and then ruining any mould that you might have. But you can see how that handrail, how it's all glued up. Now look at it now, it looks absolutely beautiful with that mould on, doesn't it, running all the way around here. Well, obviously we've got a lot of shaping to do, but it feels like a handrail already, you know, it just feels really, really nice. So once that's all sanded and finished and planed in with the spoke shaves and things like that, that'll be absolutely perfect. All these, see these pitch marks here, all the way through, we'll rub all those out so it'll be nice and clean. It'll be absolutely beautiful when it's all finished. But that is the process of moulding your handrail, whether it being curved or like the handrail over there, whether it's going to be pitched. That one over there you can see. This is the one on the rake. It's exactly the same process, taking your time, just taking small amounts off at a time. But you can actually see how nice that looks now. Really, really pleased with that, guys. So any questions, any comments, anything you want to just link in below, I'll come back to you. You've been watching Build with A&E. Make sure you subscribe and hit that like button at the same time. Have a great day. Take care.